So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea is very simple. Current affairs coverage on a daily basis is very important. In fact, it's critical. But we know that you can't spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. Therefore, for your facility, we have come out with this lecture series in which we'll cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes. That's it. Okay, so that you're left with your entire day for covering other parts of your UPSC syllabus. Now, just watching this lecture would be job half done, because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well, because otherwise you'll quickly forget these current affairs. Therefore, revision is very important. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes are shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below. You just have to click on that link. It'll take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download these notes and do the necessary but important revision. Okay? All right then. Let's begin today's session. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we are going to cover today. So in total, we'll be focusing on 4 topics because these were the only 4 topics that featured in 18th March newspaper that were of significance as far as civil services is concerned. Okay? Number 1 was with respect to appointment of Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Recently, a petition was filed in the Supreme Court which said that the complete dominance of central government with respect to the appointment of CAG is really bad. We need to reform this. So we'll talk about this. Then, New Zealand's Prime Minister is here in India, and there are bilateral talks between India and New Zealand. Now, New Zealand has expressed its willingness to join India's Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative. So what is this initiative? We'll talk about this. Then another PIL was filed, another petition was filed in the Supreme Court with respect to criminalization of politics. Okay. And with respect to that, or not just with respect to that, related to that, Election Commission has called a meeting of all the parties to discuss with respect to discuss electoral reforms, basically. So the topic of electoral reforms, criminalization of politics, all of this is in the news. So we'll talk about electoral reforms. And in the end, we'll talk about India's second spaceport. The chairman of ISRO has recently announced that India is building its second spaceport outside Andhra Pradesh. Okay, India's spaceport is in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, Sriharikota. India is going to build its second spaceport outside Andhra Pradesh in the state of Tamil Nadu. Okay, and this port will be operational from 2027. So we'll talk about spaceports in general and why they are located on the east coast of India. Okay, but we'll talk about India's second spaceport basically. Okay, so these are the 4 topics that we'll focus our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with appointment of CAG India. Now, CAG stands for Comptroller and Auditor General. Okay, now what is the job of Comptroller and Auditor General? Look, both central government and state governments incur some expenditure, right? Now, whether this expenditure is legally permissible, whether this expenditure is upright, whether this expenditure is done in a lawful manner, well, to ensure that audits are done, okay? Just after this expenditure is made or the expenditures are incurred by center and states, an authority in India audits these expenditure and finds out whether there was some discrepancy, whether some expenditure or whether things were done in a lawful manner, basically. Clear? Now, to do that, we have a constitutional authority, and that is known as Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Basically, Comptroller and Auditor General of India takes charge of maintaining sanctity of public purse. Why public purse? Because all these expenditures done by central and state governments, well, they are done from taxpayers' money, people's money, right? So this expenditure is done in a lawful form to ensure that CAG is there. Now the thing is, CAG is appointed by central government, and there is complete dominance of central government. Central government decides who will be India's CAG. So a petition was filed in the Supreme Court saying that this dominance of central government basically hampers the sanctity of this important office, because the CAG might be biased in favor of central government because central government has appointed him, right? So the petitioners have argued that absolute control of the center over the appointment process of CAG gravely affects the independence of this constitutional authority. Basically, opposition parties are saying that the central government appoints their own man, okay, and that person would favor them, right? So there should be a balanced appointment procedure where opinions from the opposition parties and the Supreme Court are also taken into account, right? Now, Supreme Court has admitted this petition. Clear? This was in the news. But for us civil services aspirants, we need to know about CAG office as well. Okay? So about CAG office or office of CAG. Look, the thing is, it is a constitutional office. Therefore, its powers or its origin comes from Constitution of India. Article 148 to 151 are completely dedicated to Controller and Auditor General. Okay? Now, many provisions are mentioned with respect to the office of CAG in our constitution between 148 to 151. First of all, Article 148 clearly says that CAG shall be appointed by President. And we all know that President is bound by the aid and advice of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. Okay. Now, central government basically tells the President to appoint a particular person and the President is bound to follow that advice. Okay. So Article 148 says that it's the job of the president to appoint CAG. Now, once the CAG is appointed, he has a fixed term of 6 years or 65 of age, whichever is earlier. Okay, so tenure is 6 years or 65 years of age. And this tenure is fixed. You cannot remove CAG from his or her office before this tenure. If you have to remove CAG, then it is a very complicated process. Okay, now you all know that removing a Supreme Court judge requires a lot of efforts. Okay, you need 2/3 majority of the parliament, and then the president will remove Supreme Court judge, right? CAG has similar protection. So the removal process of CAG is similar to that of judge of a Supreme Court. Basically, one more thing. The terms, conditions, salaries of CAG are also similar to that of a judge of a Supreme Court. So his office is basically kept independent once appointed. But central government has the power to appoint him. And that's where opposition parties are alleging that there might be some bias. Okay. Now, the office of CAG will take charge of auditing central and state accounts. Okay. Central government's expenditure, state government's expenditure, also expenditure of central companies, PSUs. Okay. Or state PSUs. Clear? These companies' expenditure or their accounts are also audited by CAG. Clear? Now, as far as the role of CAG is concerned, CAG audits all these accounts and basically prepares a report. These reports are submitted to the president if we are talking about central government, or governor if we are talking about the accounts of state government. Okay. Now, the president and the governor are bound to present or table these reports in the legislature. So, if the report is sent to president, he is bound to table that report in parliament, and the governor will table this report in state legislative assemblies. Once these reports are tabled in the parliament, then these reports are scrutinized by a special committee of the parliament called Public Accounts Committee. Okay, their reports are then discussed in the parliament. Clear? So this is how CAG ensures parliamentary control over the government. Parliament keeps a check on the government. Okay, and it keeps a check on the government through CAG, because CAG reports are tabled in the parliament. So parliamentary oversight is ensured on the executive. Okay. Plus, CAG also certifies net tax proceeds. Now, what are net tax proceeds? Basically, the thing is that let's suppose government has collected income tax worth 10 lakh crore. Okay. But to collect this income tax, government had to incur some expenditure also, because to collect this income tax, government has an income tax department, government has many government employees who will be responsible for collecting this tax. There will be an office. Okay, it will pay an electricity bill, water bill, all these things, all these kinds of expenditures have to be incurred by the government to collect this 10 lakh crore, right? Salaries of these employees, everything. Make sense? Let's suppose this entire expenditure is 3 lakh crore. So government collected 10 lakh crore, and to collect these 3 lakh crore, it had to spend government collected 10 lakh crore, and to collect these 10 lakh crore, it had to spend 3 lakh crore. So the net money that the government has gained is 7 lakh crore, right? This is known as net tax proceeds. And these net tax proceeds have to be certified. CAG will make sure that whether this calculation is correct or not. Okay, so CAG certifies these net tax proceeds. Okay, And CAG also conducts proprietary audits. Okay. Now look, it's the constitutional job of CAG to conduct legal audits. Whether the expenditure incurred by center or state is legally permissible or not. But what if the expenditure that the central government or state government agencies incurred was legally permissible, but it was not economically sound? Now, who would tell us whether this expenditure was economically sound or not? Well, for that, CAG will conduct proprietary audits also. If CAG finds that there is some room for corruption, then CAG will also point that out. Okay, so these are known as proprietary audits, and these are also conducted by CAG. Make sense? Okay, so this is the roles, responsibilities, well, constitutional provisions with respect to the office of CAG. And because it is an important office, this office takes care of public purse in India. Because of that, the petitioners are arguing that the appointment procedure for this important office should also be balanced. It shouldn't be biased. All opinions, whether ruling government, opposition members, their opinions should be taken into account. Clear? Rest you'll learn about the office of CAG when you'll cover polity lectures. Okay. Now let's move to topic number 2, which is Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi and New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon pledged to bolster their bilateral relationship. They will focus on trade, defense, regional peace, everything. Okay. So New Zealand's Prime Minister is here, and they talked, both India and New Zealand held talks on variety of issues. Now, New Zealand has expressed its desire to join India-sponsored Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. Now, to understand what this initiative is, you need to know what Indo-Pacific region is, right? So this is the Indo-Pacific region, as you can see in this picture. Okay, it includes Indian Ocean and states or countries in Pacific Ocean. Now, the thing is, why we are talking about Indo-Pacific Ocean? Because a lot of trade happens through these trade routes, and these trade routes pass through Indo-Pacific region. Okay, this region is also strategically important. And another very important thing, China is basically flexing its muscles in this region. China is building infrastructure. China is basically increasing its naval presence in this region. Okay, and China is basically flexing its muscles, establishing control over this region, right? So there is a huge China threat in this region, and all the other countries who are not in sync with Chinese policies, well, they feel that they need to do something about it, right? That is why many like-minded countries who are opposed to China, as far as China's geopolitical ambitions are concerned in this region, they have gotten together and have asked for a free and open Indo-Pacific. So this is the slogan given by, let's be real about it, enemies of China. Okay, so India, Japan, and many other countries who do not basically, their interests are not aligned with China's. All these countries have been talking about free and open Pacific, where no country can flex its muscles. This region should be free and open for every country to grow, right? Now, there are many initiatives to keep this region free and open, okay, and to repel Chinese ambitions in this region. But one such initiative was launched by India, and that was IPOI. Okay, so this is Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. It was formed in 2019 by India. It was formed in ASEAN East Asia Summit, which was held in Bangkok in 2019. India basically inaugurated this organization here. Okay, now remember, it is a non-treaty voluntary arrangement. So all the like-minded countries come together and cooperate on different issues. So basically, it is just like a club where all the like-minded countries can come and cooperate on different issues related to Indo-Pacific region. Okay, no provisions of this initiative are binding. It is a non-treaty voluntary arrangement, and the major aim of this initiative is free, open, rules-based Indo-Pacific. Okay, now this initiative, which was sponsored by India in 2019, had 7 pillars. Okay, and countries can take a lead in achieving any of the pillars. So as far as maritime security is concerned, India and UK have taken the leadership. Maritime resources like fisheries resources, mineral resources, France and Indonesia have taken a lead. For trade and connectivity, Japan, India, USA. Capacity building, disaster risk reduction, science and technology, marine ecology. Okay, so these are the 7 pillars. Remember these. of Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. All right, that would be all. Now let's quickly jump to topic number 3, which is electoral reforms. So the Election Commission of India has invited political parties to discuss strengthening the electoral process amid allegations of electoral roll manipulation, duplicate epic numbers, and concerns over EVM, VVPAT reliability. See, the thing is, there has been some controversy with respect to the electoral process. First of all, West Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee alleged that Election Commission is manipulating electoral rolls to favor BJP. Okay, she basically submitted evidence. She did not submit evidence, but basically she showed on media that there are many people in her state which have same epic numbers. Now, what are epic numbers? Okay, electoral photo identity cards, right? This is epic. So every voter is given a ID card. You all have voter ID cards, right? These are known as electoral photo identity cards, and each card has a unique number that is known as epic number. Now, Mamata Banerjee alleged that many voters in her state had same epic numbers. That means there is some problem with respect to electoral rolls. Okay, and she alleged that she basically alleged nefarious designs on the part of the government, and she said that Election Commission has colluded with the government to support it electorally, basically. Okay, so these allegations are leveled. Then, with respect to EVM, VVPAT, some allegations have been leveled that EVMs are not working and therefore more verification needs to be done. So, all these allegations are being continuously leveled against the Election Commission. Therefore, Election Commission has invited all political parties, major political parties, to discuss about these things and conduct electoral reforms so that election process is more transparent and people have more trust in this. Because without transparent electoral process, people won't have trust in our democracy and our democracy would be undermined, right? So this is very important. Now, what are the issues that, or what are the controversies that are being heightened in this debate? Okay, or what are the charges leveled by opposition party members against Election Commission? Okay, so number one is VVPAT verification. You all must have heard about this. After every election, opposition party members say that EVMs, electronic voting machines, are not working properly. Okay, you press a button to vote for Congress, but the vote goes to BJP. I mean, it's a wild allegation, okay? But opposition party members have been alleging that EVMs don't work properly and they are favoring the ruling party. That's the allegation that has been made quite often. Now, to counter this allegation, a reform was conducted way back in early 2000s, and that is known as voter verified paper audit trail. Okay, so as soon as you press a button on the EVM machine, a paper slip gets generated. On that paper slip, it is written that this particular voter or this vote went to this party. So you, while voting, while pressing a button on the EVM machine, can verify where your vote went. So people who were saying that I pressed this button, but my vote goes to Congress or BJP, well, they can verify through this paper. Okay. Now the thing is that opposition parties are also demanding that after every election, during the counting process, each slip should be matched with each vote. This is known as VVPAT verification. Now, Election Commission says that this would be a very tedious process, long-term process, and it would take a lot of time. Okay, and the results would have to be postponed because results can be declared after a very long time because each and every vote has to be verified with this paper audit. So, Election Commission gave an idea. Election Commission said that let's do one thing to just ensure that this particular polling booth was working fine. Okay, EVMs in this particular polling booth were working fine. Just to ensure that, we'll pick 5% of the votes at random and then verify them with these paper trails. So 5% of all votes polled would be picked at random, okay, and then verified. Because they are picked at random, so no one can say that you're picking only those votes which were already verified. Okay, this is something that the Election Commission has done. But opposition parties are saying that we are not satisfied with this 5%. We want this to be 100%. 100% verification should be done. Now, Election Commission says that this would be a very tedious process. It would take a lot of time to verify each and every vote with this paper trail. But opposition party members say that to basically induce trust in democracy, you have to take this cost. You have to bear this cost. Do this. Okay. But Election Commission is denying this. Okay. Next, electoral roll controversy. People are saying, opposition parties are saying that we have found similar epic numbers. Okay. Electoral roll manipulation is happening. So, how to ensure that this process is transparent and trustworthy? Election Commission has invited political parties. Then, do you know, in law, there is a cap on election expenditure. A particular candidate cannot exceed this cap. But it was found that all political candidates exceed this cap. This law is not being enforced properly. Okay, so the issue of election expenditure, in fact, it was found by a recent survey that the general elections of 2024, central elections, a total of 1 lakh crore was spent by candidates. 1 lakh crore on just elections, campaigns, and all. Now, this is too much. Okay, so this has to be resolved. And criminalization of politics. It is said that almost 46% of the MPs and MLAs have criminal charges leveled against them. So this really pollutes our democracy basically and politics if criminals are getting elected to power. Okay. Now the thing is that which laws in our country take care of what are the legal regulations which with respect to elections. So first of all, there is Article 324. It is this article which establishes Election Commission of India and gives Election Commission the general powers to supervise elections in India. Okay, so this is one. Then Representation of People's Act. There are two Representations of People Act, 1950, which takes care of electoral rolls, and 1951, which takes care of how elections would be conducted, what are the qualifications, disqualifications of candidates. And then Model Code of Conduct, which all parties have to follow, but this is voluntary in nature, remember. And many Supreme Court judgments with respect to elections. So these are the laws or rules that all election procedures have to follow. Okay, that's it. And now let's come to last news item of the day, which is India's second spaceport. So look, Spaceport is the launch site for rockets that go to space, right? Now, India has had three spaceports. Okay, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, which is in Kerala. Then there was Wheeler Island or APJ Abdul Kalam Island in Odisha. And then there is Sri Harikota in Andhra Pradesh, which is also called Satish Dhawan Space Center. Now, these are the three spaceports that India has. But the thing is that only Sri Harikota is operational. The other two are not operational. So, as far as operational spaceports are concerned, well, Sri Harikota is the only one. Now, ISRO is building a second spaceport outside Andhra Pradesh, and that would be in the state of Tamil Nadu. And this spaceport will be operational from 2027. So, ISRO's second spaceport outside Andhra Pradesh, Sri Harikota, which is coming up at Kulasekarapattinam, coastal town in Tamil Nadu's Thoothukudi district, will see its maiden launch of small satellite launch vehicle in 2027. So, the second spaceport, Kulasekarapattinam, would be operational from 2027 onwards. Okay. The new spaceport will enhance India's capabilities in the space launch services. So India will be able to sell these services also. Foreign countries can launch their satellites from India in the spaceport and pay India a hefty amount. So India can export these services as well. So this is good development. One thing I need to tell you is, and this is very important, a question might be asked with respect to this. You see, why are spaceports in India on the eastern coast only? Okay, there was one Tumba Equatorial or Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, but Sri Harikota is here in Andhra Pradesh. In Odisha, it is there Wheeler Island, and now in Tamil Nadu's east coast would be this Kulasekarapattinam. Okay, why do we choose East Coast? Okay, why East Coast is chosen as the site for launch of rockets, launch vehicles into space? There should be something special about East Coast. Okay, there is. And a question might be asked, so listen carefully. Okay, the thing is that your launching sites, okay, should be closer to the equator. Why? Well, the thing is that the speed, Earth's rotational speed, is higher at the equator, okay, and very low at the poles. So Earth rotates faster near the equator and slower near the poles. Okay, so the reason why you launch a rocket from equator or close to the equator is that the Earth is already moving very fast near the equator. So when you launch a rocket from here, it will use the speed from the Earth. Okay, so it has to burn, so it doesn't have to burn that much fuel, or it doesn't have to push that hard. It will use less fuel because its speed, or basically it would be given a significant boost by the Earth speed itself. Do you understand? Because Earth is moving that fast, so if you launch a rocket from Earth's surface, it will use Earth speed and it doesn't have to burn that much fuel. So it becomes cost effective. You burn less fuel if you launch from the equator. Clear? Next thing is that whenever you launch a rocket, you launch it and that rocket basically travels in eastern direction. And the reason for that is again that Earth rotates from west to east. So you will launch a rocket in the direction of Earth's rotation so as to get the advantage of Earth's speed, right? And if you are launching a rocket in the eastern direction, everyone does it, NASA does it also. Okay? If you're launching a rocket in the eastern direction, well, you would want this rocket to travel over that area where there is very low population or very little landmass, so that in case there is an accident, if the rocket falls, it doesn't fall on the people. Now, India's east coast, as you can see, is largely empty. Okay, if this rocket is launched from Chennai closer to the equator, it will go in this direction, and this area of Indian Ocean is largely empty. So we get this advantage too. Okay, so that is why you'll find most of our launch stations on the east coast. Why? Because eastern coast, southern India, is closer to the equator. It is better to launch because your rockets have to travel in the eastern direction. So it is better that your rocket travels over sea rather than land, right? So this is the reason. So there are basically three reasons: proximity to equator, okay, high rotational speed aids launches, less fuel is burned, eastward launch utilizes Earth's rotation for fuel efficiency, and safety zone. What do we call a safety zone? A zone where there is no population, no development. So in case a rocket falls, it doesn't fall on people. So large uninhabited area ensures safety during launches. So these are the three reasons why most of our rocket launching sites are near the equator. Clear? And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if you revise this lecture as well. So please do not forget to revise it. Okay? And I'll be signing off on that note with the promise of seeing you next time with another set of news items important from the perspective of civil services examination. Thank you, everyone.